What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Today we're gonna be talking to this guy.
Found myself on YouTube on somebody else's channel. It's Godless Engineer. Recently, I say about a week ago, I made a video of him, and it was because I saw him trying to debunk D-Marble's local sun video. Whenever I made this video of him, in rebuttal, instead of responding to this amazing video that I've got showing a local sun plain as day, instead of saying anything about that, he goes back and gets a video that I made. We're told in science that the sun is 400 million miles away.
Well, apparently he was none too happy with my response video to his video, so he got in touch with me, and today we're going to be talking to him. So if you want to hear how this conversation went, how it went real crazy, really kind of quick, then please stay tuned. All right, do you want to introduce yourself and your channel and everything like that, and what you believe to be true?
Sure. My name is Bryce. I run a channel on YouTube called The Smallest Light. You're an average everyday person that believes I found out a few things, and I lay floor for a living, and in my free time I make videos about what I learned, just not just thing, just what I find out I can share that I feel like other people should know.
Okay. And part of that is believing in that the earth is flat.
The flat earth. Yeah, well, see, I believe that we call it a flat earth to our own detriment sometimes, because I can't, I see mountains and hills, so I can't say it perfectly, but in my experience, I believe water to never curve, with laying floor. So if it doesn't curve, it may not be flat exactly, but it doesn't form a ball ever, in my opinion,
Okay. All right. Well, we can kind of use that as a jumping point then. So do you know, as far as like the globe earth claims and whatnot, do you understand why we say that it's a sphere and that water curves?
Yes, I understand the gravity of the situation. I understand what I was told in school, how it operates. And, in my understanding now, it seems to be a little bit of a reversal. So, we kind of believe the same thing's just reversed, so that way what we say is the lies goes hand in hand, with what they can prove. It's what we say we see, and what's told to us is two different things. That's what we share, and it's kind of one of those things that's unprovable, because I can tell you water doesn't curve, but you can say it does out of my view. So that's why in the email I was talking about it. So it's a tough thing to argue or debate on.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's so much of a tough thing to argue or debate on. Both of us have evidence for our particular claims, and
Right.
we just can present it. And I have to say, I do want to say that in my video, I did use some, I guess, ad hominem kind of language towards
Right.
you. And I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to me about this and not being belligerent, like right out the gate and whatnot. And I'm sure that you're
Right.
just as surprised as me not being immediately belligerent to you.
Well, that's a good thing. That's one I said I'll give it a shot either way, because if one of us were belligerent to the other one, we're going to look foolish to the people who watch us. And it's not what I'm about, because I'm not really about arguing, like I was saying. And I just want to tell what I feel like is the truth from my own personal experience. And to answer your question, yes, I do understand why you believe it's a ball, and I believed it for a long time myself.
Okay. Would you mind explaining the concept of gravity for me real quick?
Okay, well, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, it's not something that we can measure. So he can't even provide a logical answer, but it's a gravitational pull. We don't know, maybe magnetic, I assume, from the center of the earth that pulls things back in. No? Okay, well, maybe you could teach me.
Okay. Well, for one thing, we can measure the force of gravity.
Okay.
Actually, every planet out there has its own force of gravity. That's the 9.8 meters per second that we experience here. That's the acceleration due to gravity. But we can measure the force of gravity, like in newtons and other kinds of force measurements. But so we can in fact measure it, and we have a formula to measure how much gravity would be acted upon one object by another object. See,
Right.
it's not magnetic. It is a force that we don't fully understand, but we do know that atoms attract one another in different ways. When it's just on the atomic scale, it's static forces. Like again, I think what you were saying is electromagnetic, but they're static forces due to the electrons and all of those kind of forces that are acting within the atoms. But once you get to a larger scale, you have different masses of objects that attract each other in predictable ways. And that's when gravity takes over, is when it overcomes the static forces of the universe. So I mean, basically what gravity is you have a clump of mass, and as it gets bigger, the force of gravity it exerts on all objects surrounding it gets greater and causes them to pull to the very center of a three-dimensional space.
Right. And that's a complicated explanation of what you believe. And we as flat earthers, we simplify it with density and buoyancy, and it doesn't require much of a measurement. It's just heavy objects fall down to the ground, lighter objects rise. If it's an air bubble under a heavier object like water, it's going to rise to the top. So we believe that's how we get our layers of atmosphere, how that sun is able to stay up there where it's at. It's at the top of, I believe, the troposphere, and that's a different layer of atmosphere. So whatever it's made of can only go that high, just like an air bubble rising in water. So that's how we simplify it.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in those statements right there. First of all, could you please explain to me the basic laws of motion?
Well, I don't claim to be a scientist, so really I can't go into those areas. Those are figures. And see, whenever we figure out things like this, we question all of that. So you're asking someone who's kind of foreign to science, a person who doesn't believe in science, to quote scientific facts. And as far as motion, we just go by our senses that God gave us. I stand out here and close my eyes and hold my arms out, and I can tell I'm not spinning anywhere. When I look at the water, it's flat. So that's we go by our senses and not by science. It's more of a God thing. And, like your title, you say godless engineer, but I do believe in God. You may not. And that's what led me to this, to look into this. And then science to me confirmed it. True science would be what I use in my hands. I use a self-leveling compound when I fix a divot or a dip in the floor. And if there's a gap in the floor itself, I don't have to do anything. And I know that's a small scale, but it just represents the properties of water. So once you wrap your head around it, you're like, well, it can't curve if it does that, can it? And it cannot,
Okay. Okay, so the basic laws of motion. Now, if you set let's say, soccer ball on the ground right now, will it move on its own?
It shouldn't unless it's on an incline.
Okay. Well, if you set a soccer ball down on the ground, it will not move unless it's acted upon by an outside force. Is that correct?
Oh, the ground's not level.
Well, no, just stay with me here, okay? If perfectly level plane, a ball is sitting there, it won't move unless something else acts upon it, right?
You are correct.
Okay, so the first law of motion is that any object at rest will stay at rest.
Right.
Okay?
I can go for that.
Okay, that's the first law of motion, basic laws of motion. The second law would be that once any force that acts on an object will have an equal and opposite force applied to it.
Yeah, equal and opposite reaction, right?
Yeah, I'm doing my Google foo right now on the basic laws of motion to make sure I get, because I know them.
I've heard it too, but to quote it word for word, I didn't want to put myself in that situation. But you got Google right there, so.
Yeah. Well, okay, so actually the one that I just said was the third law of motion. I felt like I was getting that out of whack, so I'm really sorry about that.
That's cool.
So the second law of motion is in an inertial reference frame, meaning that, from the soccer ball sitting on the ground, being still and everything like that, the amount of force applied to it is the mass of the object times the acceleration. That's how much force that has, right? So those are the three laws. So you have, unless acted upon a force, an object at rest will stay at rest. the force that the ball applies is the mass of the ball times the acceleration, and then once a force is exerted on an object, an equal and opposite force is exerted back in the direction of that force. So those are the basic laws of motion. And so what we're talking about right now is gravity, and how you say it's density and buoyancy, and then I say that it's gravity, and you say gravity doesn't exist. So for something to sit in the air, it has to have a force acting on it to make it go down. And I'm wondering how you explain that. Because density is not a force, it's how many atoms are in a particular object. Buoyancy is actually an effect of gravity, but I would like for you to try to explain that.
How do you explain the opposite of that? How do you explain if I take a little toy boat and put it in this lake beside me and I pull it down underwater and let it go, it's going to shoot up. So how do you explain the upward force?
Well, because the
Without
air
gravity.
the air that's within it is lighter.
Exactly.
Than
So it's
the
density
water.
and buoyancy that you're using to describe that physical characteristic, and that's exactly the same thing as what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, but no, but look, gravity is the thing that has it going like down under the like going towards the
But
water.
it doesn't work when the boat goes up.
What? No, it
Gravity
does
is-
work when the boat goes up, because buoyancy is a product of gravity. Like gravity is the reason why buoyancy happens.
No, buoyancy happened because what you said first, you were correct when you're talking about it as a lighter material than the area around it. So that's density and buoyancy. It works one way, it works the other way. It doesn't need to be explained by gravity downward and then explained by buoyancy upward.
Well,
It
you
can
have
be the
to
same
no.
physics. But another thing to consider when you're thinking about this is you never see liquid conform to any shape on the outside of a container. It's always on the inside. So then you can consider and say, well, it's got to be higher around the edges of the water, and it can't be curving over because then the water would spill. I mean, these type of things are common sense,
Well, no, actually, the cohesion of the water molecules and the adhesion of the water molecules to different surfaces allows the beads of water to form on, like the outside of the glass. Condensation on the outside of a glass is a perfect example of water conforming to the outside of the glass. I know that you're expecting water to wrap fully around it and stay stuck on it, but you need a
We
much
don't see
bigger
any
object in order
example of
for that
that
to happen.
anywhere, not to mention, like I was telling you in the email, noticing, as they say, a ship over the curve. When you go, that's one of the greatest proofs they use. Look at the ship go over the curve. But while they're telling people that you can watch a ship go over the curve in front of you, if you look right to left horizontally, it's perfectly flat. So in your ability to see right to left is just as far as your ability to see outward. So how can someone see a curve going full right to left? The horizon is perfectly level. So, I always wonder, and I think that's a foolish proof, is what I'm saying, that the earth curves, and the proof of it is a ship going over it while it's level all the while, right to left. They're convincing people that it curves in front of them.
Well, okay, so we're touching on a lot of topics here. So for the ships going over the curve, you would need to explain why they disappear from bottom up, and it's not just simply the angle of your how you're viewing it or whatnot. On the globe Earth model, you have the actual curve hiding from bottom to up. That's actually how the first sailors were able to deduce that we actually lived on a sphere, is they saw the boats disappearing from bottom to up. So now if we're living on a flat plane, why would it not disappear all at once instead of bottom to up?
Right, and we have our explanation of perspective for that. But like I said, everything that y'all say and have is based on scientific facts, and that's what we're calling into question here. So it's like saying the scientific is, if we all put it in a book, it's always going back to that book whenever we're saying that book is bad. So we're saying, let's do some actual, research. Let's do some actual testing. Let's take a gyroscope and set it up to spin for a period of 24 hours. And the gimbal itself should turn 1/4 every 4 hours. So these things don't happen. And this proves the earth does not spin. So if we do real tests, we can figure this stuff out. But we can talk about it a lot, but it doesn't do any good to get us where, because we have different facts. You believe one thing and I believe a different thing.
Well, no, I mean, I would say that those aren't facts at all. But no, I mean, mine has no connection to the scientific facts that you disagree with. Like the ships going over the curve, I can explain why they disappear from bottom to top. But it seems like to me, if the Earth were flat and the visibility was limited to a certain distance, the ships would disappear either all at once or from top to bottom. So I'm kind of curious on your perspective from this.
Well,
How
the only
does
thing,
perspective explain how ships disappear when they go off in the
see, I've
distance?
had, one of the first things I did, I told you I laid floor for a living. When I figured out about this, I watched a high altitude balloon and didn't see any curvature. So I started doing tests myself, and I went and purchased a P900, looked at the stars up close and seen they were not what we're told. Watched other people with a video of the P900 pulling the ship back into view, and I can see that we can view things that we're not supposed to be able to view. But when you bring it back in, you bring the entire ship, everything back into view. If it's a flat surface on a clear day, it depends on the density of the air, the smog, everything. The human being can only see so far. But whenever you can get technology to pull it back into view, you see it all. You don't just
Well,
see
no,
portions.
no, you patently don't. You can look at the same P900s, and
So
once those
these
ships
are the
move
shots we
farther
have
out,
viewing cities for miles and miles. We're viewing cities. This boat is nowhere near as far as the cities we viewed. So we're talking about a fraction of the bottom of a boat, that we're viewing that's nowhere near the length of the city we're viewing on the other side. And the whole building should be covered. You know what I'm saying? Not to
well,
mention, like I
no.
told you, the NASA fails, the bubbles in space, the rats on Mars. It just, when you consider those things, then it puts you out of an argument to talk about something without looking like you do have an agenda. And I said, that's not what we're going to say. I'm not saying that, but I'm just telling you that so people will understand. Don't do it, because it makes people think you have an agenda, or you're either just poked your eyes out and you're not paying attention to reality, because all these things are speaking, especially when you look at the stars with a P900. How could I think you don't have an agenda if you can look at that and say, that doesn't look like what we've been told? Or all the pictures that are not real, all the continents that are not the same shape, all these blatant things that are right here is red flags. But everybody just says, no, it's still round. But if I was talking about the moon being made out of cheese, people wouldn't come search me out and argue with me about things, because it's a foolish thing to argue with someone about. But, flat earth is a foolish thing. They say, yet they take their time about something foolish.
Okay. Um. That was a lot.
It was.
No, well, I
I
mean, my
usually
brain
give a
kind of
lot
shut
whenever
off
I
after you
give it.
said there were rats on Mars. So,
That's all things people can look up for themselves. It's about research. It's about getting out in your world and looking at the sun and saying, wow, it looks like it's just right there. It's not far away.
I'm
Look
gue-
at the
I'm
water. Look
guessing
at
I'm guessing
question
the
your
rats on
reality.
Mars are just a picture, right?
Right. Well,
Okay.
just you have to repeat that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said the rats on Mars you were getting from like a picture of Mars or something.
Yeah, Jeranism, watching he uncovered all the Mars rover was in a Greenland, I think it was. He found it throughout his videos. You can look. He found the NASA rover, the Mars rover, just states somewhere or in Greenland. I can't remember where. He was on Google Earth, but we can look it up later and see where he was at exactly.
Okay, well, let's go back to gravity because you still haven't actually explained why things are pulled down to the earth. Because, like, if, like I was saying with the laws of motion, if you have a ball in the air, like there has to be a force that's pushing it down.
And we
Buoyancy is
don't
not a
believe it's the
force.
ball.
Well, no, I understand. No. I'm saying like if you have like a
Oh,
soccer
you're saying
ball
if
and
you have, okay. All right.
yeah, if you have a
Well,
soccer ball,
I
you're
did
holding it in
explain
the
it, but you
air.
just, like I said, you don't accept it, which I understand. But I'm saying you don't accept the density and buoyancy. You don't accept the simple logic as drop something. If it's heavy, it's going to fall. If it's heavier than the air around it. But
Well, no, that's
that's
because
pretty much.
no, I don't. I don't accept it because it doesn't actually explain it. Buoyancy isn't a force. Density isn't a force. What force is acting on the ball to make it
Right,
go
I don't
down?
feel any force. I can just jump off of this giant ball. If this giant ball was a magnet or had magnetic force, there was no way in the hell me at 160 pounds could just hop off the earth like this. Ain't no way.
Do you think you're
So what
magnetic?
force is holding me here? I mean, I don't feel a force. I don't see one in action anywhere other than things dropping. If they're look, there's drones everywhere around me right now. They're just flying. So there's no force. There's a force taking them up, but there ain't no force holding them down. They just gonna remain down. I mean, that's just the way I see it, like I said, but that's the way other flat earthers see it. That's the way people that look at life with their eyes and their common sense, in my opinion, see it. Not to be offensive, but
okay. So, do you know what the formula for buoyancy is?
I absolutely do not.
Okay, well, the formula for buoyancy is the fluid density of the object times the displaced body of the body volume of water or liquid multiplied by the gravity constant.
That sounds about right, but they throw that in there for some reason. You know, that's my opinion again. You know, we're conspiracy theorists. We question everything. But if you know gravity doesn't exist, when you hear that word, you're like, well, there's more bullshit. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay, well then, so then how can you calculate the buoyant force? Like the force of like the force surrounding buoyancy.
Right. I mean, that would be something like sometimes when I take on new projects, flooring, building, construction, you know, I have to figure out new formulas for new things. You know, I've never encountered the need to figure out the buoyancy formula, but, you know, if I was working with boats or floats or something of the type, then I would. But not saying that I can't is what I mean, but I just haven't looked into that yet.
Okay, well, I would be interested as to how you figure out like to calculate the exact like force of buoyancy.
I can
Like
guarantee
buoyancy
you a part
itself
of
is
my
not a
equation will
force.
never be gravity. That won't be part of my equation.
Okay, well, I don't know how you're going to determine buoyancy then. I don't know
And it
what you're
won't
going
be
to do
determined
because
by spin either, because anything they build in scientific today, it don't, you know, it doesn't account for any of these things, spin or curvature.
what hold on, why does curvature matter to buoyancy? Why does spin matter to
Why does
buoyancy?
NASA fails matter to this conversation?
I didn't bring up NASA fails.
I did, but see what I'm saying is how you're asking how it's relevant. I'm saying it is very relevant because NASA fails means we shouldn't really be having this conversation because there's a video on my page showing them fail. So if they're failing, I'm not saying particularly it's flat. I'm saying there's a problem. There's a red flag. We're being lied to. So we're
Well,
discussing the shape of the planet while they're stealing our money is what I'm saying. So we're talking about
no,
what's
okay,
relevant,
but you see, whether or not NASA has failed has nothing to do with basic forces and basic principles of reality.
right? Well, each to each is with this kind of thing. You got to be able to figure it out for yourself. Because I've talked till I'm blue in the face. At first, I wanted everybody to know the Earth is flat, but now a lot of people, I'm like, I don't even care if you want to live on a ball of water. You go right ahead. You know, if that's what you think you do, you know, that's fine with me. Because, like I said, it's to each his own. But I'm here to say this is what I believe to be the truth, and whether you choose to believe it or not is up to you.
So, what do you think that the Earth is made out of? Like you keep saying, if you want to believe that you live on a ball of water, like
Right.
the part
Well,
of the surface
I
is
didn't mean
covered
that it's
in
made of
water.
water. I just meant a ball of this got water on the top of. To me, that sounds foolish. But it's not going to be sounding foolish to everybody, or they don't want it to sound foolish, but it's still going to sound foolish to me.
Okay. Yeah, let me ask you this. If you had a big enough object that had a force that was pulling, other objects to the center of that object, would that not explain water being, as you would say, stuck to the outside of the ball?
That may explain it, but I just don't know if that ever work out for anybody. You know, like I've said, I've never seen it replicated. Now, some things people call magic is just because they're naive to the technology. But when I see water curve like that on a massive level, that would be something like out of one of the movies where Moses splits the Red Sea and the people walk through the middle of it. It just don't happen.
Okay, but so what do you think of like other planets that we can see through the telescopes?
Well, whenever I look through my P900, I get something that it resembles a CD, and it's electrical in nature. And, you know, then there again, I'm careful with the speculation because people sound like an idiot when you try to know something that you don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't know what they are. I wonder every day what the sun is myself, because if you think of it in perspective as a flat earther, we look up and say, hey, what is this thing now? Because we believe it's local and close. Y'all believe it's far away. Now, if we believe it's local and close, that means we got to question the nature of it. So that's what we do is say, what is this object in our sky? It can't be what they tell us, because if it's a ball of gas, you light gas on fire and boom, it's gone. So it's made of something else. So it just causes you to look deeper into your life.
Wait, could you repeat that thing about putting gasoline on the sun?
Right. They say the sun is a giant ball of gas, correct?
Well, no. I mean, the sun is plasma, but it burns hydrogen gas.
Okay, so doesn't it require oxygen?
No,
A fire doesn't require oxygen?
no, it's plasma. Plasma doesn't require oxygen to burn.
Okay, but still, now if it was in our atmosphere, let's change that to if you became a flat earther, hypothetically speaking, and you believe there was some type of protective layer above us and the sun was enclosed inside of this, what would be causing it to burn then? Because it would have to be something different inside of the atmosphere, correct?
You understand that the sun is not burning like you know it to be burning.
I really don't know
Fusion
what it
is
is.
happening in the sun.
Right?
Like fusion happens. That's what creates the sun's heat and light.
Okay. And this light feeds all of us. It's what makes the CO2 molecules that we eat. It turns to energy through photons. So
What?
the sun creates the food that you eat. What you eat is processed sunlight. Now you have to look into this. I got a video on my page about it. It's in depth, but you can look and see how the CHO molecule is transferred by photons into the food that we eat. So what I'm telling you is the sun is very important. Not only does it do that, it decalcifies your pineal gland. That's the third eye inside your head. It's calcified from fluoride. So when you figure out the sun is local, it's important and gives you vitamin D, keeps you alive, and feeds you, what does that mean it is?
Oh, I have no idea at this point.
Right. Well, it's to each his own, right? When you look and
No.
think about something, the answer's either there or it's not. It's not there for everyone.
I okay, so let's back up a little bit here. Can you even explain how plants like use sunlight to generate energy?
Yes, chlorophyll. Now, whenever the photons enter inside of the chlorophyll, it's translated. The photons create energy, but it's translated into the fat molecule, which is the CHO molecule.
Okay.
So every
Well,
bit of, if you eat meat, that's secondhand CHO. If you eat a watermelon, what you're eating is processed sunlight, which means that you're eating the energy of the sun that has been transferred into a material object that you see in front of you.
Well, okay, listen. I feel like you're taking a lot of scientific principles and you don't fully understand them, and you're trying to present them even though you don't understand them.
Right. That's why I said you have to watch my video, because I wasn't going to replicate it on the spot. But the video breaks down what you're asking here for: all the molecules, all the process, chlorophyll. From the sunlight to the product in your hand.
Okay, plants and animals are not just processed sunlight. I'm just
Not just animals. That's not what I'm getting. I'm talking about what you eat. You survive because of the sun. You live because of the sun. The sun is important. So what I'm telling you is people consider that. I'm trying to give you my perspective as a flat earther. We don't just think the sun's just an object. It's got to be important to be close like that. Now, you may not be able to see that, but like I said, we're going to be objective. I know you believe it's 93 million miles away, correct? So we believe it to be close.
Yes.
That means if we believe that, if you believe that, wouldn't you think, it has to be something different than what I've told, correct? I've been told. I do. And
okay, that's fine,
videos,
but
right?
the sun is 93 million miles away. I mean, if you just do like you can do the actual like measurements yourself by using the angular size of the sun from two different locations, and you can use basic geometry to calculate how far away it is. So, do you not think that mathematics and like geometry? Do you think those are lies, or do you think that?
Once you see something for yourself, you wrap your head around it. It's kind of hard to unsee that fact. So for me, if I would have never got involved with construction, if I'd have kept playing video games, I would have never understood, how water works and how to build things. But now that I put my hands on it and I've built, I understand water's always level. I see it that way. So I don't worry about all the facts you're talking about. It ain't like somebody's going to convince me it's not what I see after I see it, is what I'm saying. You might have went somewhere and saw a pink elephant. And if you did, you're going to tell me, I'm going to be like, whatever, man. But you got to know it for yourself, right? I mean, once you know something for yourself, you're going to know it, and you ain't going to let nobody else persuade you. But the conversation ain't going to get nowhere if we just discussing views, is what I'm saying. I'm kind of locked in. But
Oh, okay. I'm not okay. But just to preface here, or not preface, we're already like 20 minutes to 30 minutes in. But I'm not here to try to change your view. I'm just
Right.
having a discussion, and
Well,
I'm
you
presenting
want me
like
to give a
problems
bunch of
with your
scientific
arguments.
facts, but I'm trying to tell you that I kind of live by intuition. My whole life I've been, led by feelings, and then I figure out the science of it later. But this kind of fell into my lap, like I said, because I chose to work with my hands. It gave me new knowledge, and I put two and two together, using a compass, using a ruler, using those things that you're talking about. But I've done all those experiments. You can look on my channel. I've tested the moonlight. I've done all these things already for myself. So I've assured myself of my view, whether it's round or flat. And it's up to
Well,
each his
okay,
own now to,
okay.
to look at
So,
me and you and decide what they want to believe, right?
well, I mean, that's the purpose of me, talking to you today is, give people both sides of the story, show the discourse, and let people decide.
Well,
But
that's what they're going to do either way.
okay, but now, so you're saying that the moonlight is a cool light?
It measures cooler.
Well, I mean, do you understand the scientific principles of like the heat transfer, like from the sun during the day and then at night when all of the objects are giving off heat?
Right.
I mean,
As far as the principles go, it's like another one of those things where the light bulb kicks on. When it's colder, I just assume it can't be reflecting the warm UV lights of the sun. It's decaying. And a light that is colder and different in field just means it's different to me. But I don't have to dig into it to say, well, this is scientific fact. I can define it this way and that way. Now, I appreciate the fact that you do such research, but what I'm saying, it clicked for me without having to go that far. Sometimes people will do that in order to prove it to themselves. And I already kind of had it. I'm like, oh, that's good. I believe it. I know it's something
okay,
different, like I said.
let me ask you this: can intuition be wrong?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, my intuition, well, I wasn't following my intuition. I don't think my intuition was wrong, but it's up to us to stay connected. And like I told you earlier, all the things that we eat and drink calcify our pineal gland, make it where we can't think critically and connect with our intuition, which causes us to believe things like we live places we may not, or, we're free when we're not. So all these things are up to each his own to find out that, hey, once I get these things out of my mind, I can think more clearly. I can see, I can be more free, and then that breaks up all the making money off of everyone plans. So all I can
Okay,
do is sit on the other side of the hill and say, hey, y'all want to be free? You got to wake up and do what you need to do to clean out your brain so you can think, eat good foods.
okay. Last point, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Um, and in the video, the one of the video responses that you made to me, you showed the video of the sun appearing up from the clouds, and you feel like that's proof of a small local sun,
I don't
right?
see how it couldn't be. Look, the
Okay.
sun has clouds touching it, don't it?
No, well, I mean, I would say no, it doesn't. But
Anybody that
so,
sees it that has eyes sees it's got clouds touching it. So if the clouds are touching the sun, it can't be 93 million miles away.
uh, okay. But getting back to that, do you still hold to the AE like map for a flat Earth map?
I really wish I knew what it was. Like I said, I wonder like a little kid, and I know it sounds retarded, but I look up at this world and I'm like, I wish I knew what the sun was. I wish I knew the shape of the world I lived in. I know I'm being lied to, and that's really, really about the limit of my mouth. And I wish I could say more, and I would have if I was younger, but now I'm wiser. So I know, don't talk myself into a corner about things that I don't know anything about.
Okay, but like I'm just wondering if you can explain that sunrise, like because if the
In my
sun's
opinion,
up
it
there and
doesn't
it's
rise though. See, that's what I'm getting at. You said explain it rising, it never rises. It goes above the flat earth, like this, right beside the moon. So there is no rising. It's just perspective. It just goes
well,
out of your perspective.
yeah,
That's what
but I
we
mean
believe, right?
it doesn't change the angular, it doesn't change an angular size, so like the sun is just the same size when it rises
Mhm.
and when it sets.
Sometimes, yes, it appears that way. And I wondered myself, is the sun able to fluctuate in size, or does it go up and down, which would affect that also? So there's a lot of factors that we don't know that we could consider, and we could say, no, it does this, but then where are they getting them facts from? That same book that I was talking about earlier, the one that we said we didn't trust. But like I said, if the sun has clouds around it, we know it's not 93 million miles away. So I can't go by what them science books tell me about the sun's angular velocity, this and that. It obviously moves around us because we have different seasons. We feel the weather change. So there's a lot of things about its patterns that we still have to learn. But like I said, I believe I know I'm being lied to, right?
Okay. Can you explain on a globe Earth model how it gets cooler in the winter and how the seasons change?
Right. Can I explain in the globe model you said?
Yeah.
In the globe model, it has to do with tilt and the way that the Earth is facing the sun. You know, which part is closer will have a summer. The part that is away will have the winter. That's a globe model, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, but it's because of the angle at which the sun's rays hit the Earth. In the winter, they're a lot more crap, I can't remember. The angle is bigger in the winter than it is in like the summer. So you
Right.
have you have more direct like sunlight in the summer because of the tilt of the Earth. And that's the only
Right.
reason why we actually have seasons and whatnot. I wanted to get that out there for anybody that actually cares about how stuff works.
Right. Well, I mean, other than that, like I said, I wanted to talk to you, and it was a pleasure talking. We didn't have to fuss or anything like that. And I don't want to be that way, you know, but I'm kind of a loner. I stay to myself. I don't talk to a lot of people because they're like, this crazy flat Earth guy. You know what I'm saying? So we just stay to ourselves, and
Well, I
it's
mean,
good
that's
talking.
fine. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me and everything like that. And I'm sorry about starting off my video a little harsh. I normally make a few like observations or whatnot, trying to lighten the mood and be funny and whatnot. So I'm
Well,
sorry
this is
that
the
I.
first time I've done this like this, so you know, it's a new thing to me too. So we're both in the same boat with that. But
Okay. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you talking with me, and I hope that you guys have a very lovely day. And I hope that
all right,
maybe we can do this again sometime.
we can. I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah. I'll see you later.
Later.
Thank you, Heathens, for joining in on whatever the fuck that was. Be sure you keep that cranial third eye clean, and if you have, or if you pet the Mars rodent, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear that. While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like these kind of conversations. Maybe, I don't know. I liked it. But anyways, don't forget to stand up, use your voice, and I will see you heathens later.